Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would talk about the F-86F-40. This is a vehicle that is in a few tech trees, but the one that I recently spaded was the Japanese one. This was because they have added in, of course, the kind of tie stuff to the Japanese tech tree, and I wanted to grind it out, and I'd already spaded a bunch of Japanese vehicles around this BR, but I'd left the F-40. And the reason for this is because I had very negative experiences in the F-40 previously in different metas. If you actually have a look around the 9.0 area, there are a lot of monsters at 9.3 and 9.7 which are supersonic. They usually have some pretty good guns and also missiles that makes the F-40 quite hard to play. And weirdly enough, this time, playing the F-40, we did extremely well in it. I don't really know what's changed. The area is not exactly less hostile. I suppose you don't have Su-25s and don't have A-10s to deal with, but you still have Harriers. You still have stuff like, the good old F-104s. You still have all of those crazy things. So I don't really know what changed, but it just seemed a lot easier this time compared to others. Maybe I just got lucky on the days that I played it, or maybe something has changed on how people are playing or where people are playing. Because one of the other things I noticed around this BR is my queue times have increased a little bit, which is kind of surprising. So the F-86F-40 is one of the better Sabres in the game. The vehicle gets access to a bunch of features that make it a little bit better than its compatriots. First of all, it gets access to A9B Sidewinders, which is not available on most of the Sabres. There's a few in the game which are, and this one is probably in the best position of ones which have access to the A9B. There's a problem though. The A9Bs are a rank 4 modification, which you'll be like, okay, well, that's pretty standard. That's kind of like a normal thing, right? Well, guess what? In order to get to it, you have to research bombs because they're attached to it for some reason. No idea why, but they just are. So you have to unlock the M117 bombs and the FLBC bombs, which are completely worthless to you since you are a fighter unless you are using this thing in ground, but this is not something that should really be used in ground unless you have no other options. So instead of getting the performance upgrades on this thing, which are very much needed to keep up with everything that's going around, you instead have to go for bombs, which are not very useful. And then after getting the M9Bs, you have to then get the performance upgrades over the side. And this kind of sucks. It just means that the modification or the spading pattern for this is a little bit more uncomfortable than it needs to be. Now, some of the other factors that make it pretty fun, it does have the leading edge slats, it does turn very well, and it means that if you ever face a Sabre or a MiG-15 or anything similar, you are able to deal with it very effectively. It also means whenever you deal with those monsters that we talked about before, and 9.3 or 9.7, you can pretty much outmaneuver all of them. Until you get the engine upgrade though, and those types of performance upgrades, you are going to struggle after the third or fourth turn. They will just out-energy you, so just take that into account. You're going to want to reset every maybe 3 turns while playing this thing, but generally you'll do okay in it. Which is, pretty decent. And against a lot of the aircraft that are lower than you in BR, what will happen is you can just do what they do, but better. Sometimes you have weaker weaponry, but you have a better engine, you have better mobility, and usually you can just make them overshoot, or you can just turn with them, and you can, sort it out there. The vehicles that are higher BR than you, they are way faster than you, like by orders of magnitude faster than you, which is pretty crazy. But once again, if you know how to defensively fly, you can stay away from them, and then you can, shoot them on the back end. Once I got the AIM-9Bs, there was quite a few times where F-104s would come after me. They would try and turn with me, they would miss, and they would try and shoot and scoot afterwards to try and get away, and then I would hit them with the missile. It actually worked surprisingly well. But then again, there was a lot of F-104s that I felt like didn't really know what they were doing, which is an unfortunate thing at this BR. When you have very strong vehicles, and they are flavor of the month vehicles, or are just really popular, you're always going to have that kind of setup where there is a lot of different people playing them, which keeps their stats a lot more stable than other vehicles, which only a select few play. And that's kind of the problem with this type of system, but there's nothing that you can do to really change it unless you really take a chance on it. The biggest issue with the F-86F-40 that I found is the Harrier. The Harriers go high. They have very high acceleration, meaning that they can get to very positive positions very quickly. And even though you don't have a huge heat signature, if you aren't able to get the nose of the plane looking towards the Harrier or the missile, you will die pretty quickly. And that just kind of sucks. So those are the aircraft which I would say are the best against the F-40, mainly because of the AIM-9G, because the AIM-9G is really, really good in terms of, doing damage to pretty much anything it touches. Now, this doesn't have the best weaponry, okay, let's preface this. The weaponry on this, I enjoy, okay? It has 650 cals. They're M3 Browning machine guns. These are the kind of post-World War II 50 cals, and what this means is they have a higher fire rate, and also they have access to a tracer belt, which has APIT ammunition, which penetrates the target and also causes it to explode and set fires. I really like using these guns, but the general consensus is for kind of air combat, these guns aren't the best because they don't always do a ton of damage. Now, for me, the way that I see these guns and the way that I see a lot of jet combat is if I hit somebody and if I get like a singular crit or if I just do some damage, the game is won, right? Or that fight is won, because jets lose so much performance even if you just like yellow a wing or if you yellow a fuselage. So since the M3 Brownings give you a lot of rounds and also at the same time have very good muzzle velocity on them, this gives you the opportunity to be able to do that against a lot of the vehicles that you're facing. And I feel like that is very important for this type of vehicle, and that is one of the key things, since you're going to be dogfighting a lot with this, with having a lot of rounds and with having those guns, you'll do very well. The other part of it, which is also very important with this vehicle, is the fact that it has a ton of ammunition. So even after the fight, even if you have like 3, 4, or 5 kills after, dogfighting your life off, basically you are still able to kind of hit some ground targets. You are still able to go after some of the AIs to try and swing the game in your favor as a team. And I think that's really cool on the F-40. The other thing is it does technically have a gun radar, the APG-30, but it's not very useful, so I wouldn't really bother with it. Maybe in simulator it's useful, but everywhere else it's kind of worthless because you're not lining up on targets and then trying to like outrun them or anything. You are just trying to turn fight with them and hit them like that. So my experience in this thing was really nice, which was a huge surprise because I remember playing stuff like the F-104, I remember playing stuff like the Demon, and whenever seeing an F-40, all I thought was fresh meat, and I still kind of do, which is why I feel like this is an anomaly, what I've experienced with this vehicle. So to give you an idea, the stats for this Japanese F-40, 22 battles played, 64% win rate, 43 air kills, 5 deaths. So we only died in a quarter of the battles that we played, and also we basically have a KD of 9-1 and also 70 ground kills. And I will say one of those deaths was an ally ramming into me, so technically it should have a 10-1 KD. Kind of ridiculous and kind of out of nowhere. Shows how crazy War Thunder can be, and also how opinions can always not line up with the experience. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.